What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 30 and my wildcard is active. And as I went through my points for Game Week 29 in the video last week, we're going to jump straight into the draft. So let's get into it. So let's start with the defensive players. At the moment in goal, I've got Ederson from Man City and Martinez from Aston Villa. My current plan is to bench boost in 33 and free hit in Game Week 34. Therefore, I want two goalkeepers that are likely to double in 33. So that would be someone from Man City, Arsenal, Villa, or Crystal Palace. The only annoying thing about that is 3 of those teams have goalkeepers that are 5 million plus. It's quite a lot of money to spend on goalkeepers. The only team that has a cheaper goalkeeper is Palace, so Dean Henderson at 4.6 million. But I also like Munoz, Mateta, Eze, and Sarr. So the reason I'm on Ederson and Martinez is just by default. I don't have a space for another Crystal Palace player. And if I go for David Raya in goal, that would be triple Arsenal defence. So Raya, Gabriel and Saliba. And I'm not completely against that. I've been on triple Arsenal defence once this season. I'm prepared to go back to it. But I don't know if I want to block off a route to Saka or another Arsenal attacker. So for example, if Haaland is a doubt for Game Week 33, who would probably be my favourite captain that week, and I need to go elsewhere, if Saka's played the previous few weeks and looks like his minutes are good, and he's recovered from injury pretty well, he might be an option against Ipswich away and Crystal Palace at home. And I'm not saying that I would go for Saka in Game Week 30. I just don't know if I want to completely block that route off. Obviously, if Haaland is completely out, then Marmoush would also be a captain option in Game Week 33. But I'm just thinking of the situation where Haaland's a doubt, so you don't really want to captain him, but you're also not completely sure about Marmoush playing both games for kind of 80 to 90 minutes. So I don't necessarily want to lock off that route to Saka. Obviously, I could go for Raya instead of Ederson, but then I've got to find a different defender for Saliba. So at the moment, I'm set up with Ederson and Martinez as my goalkeepers. And then the back three is Gabriel and Saliba, so double Arsenal defence. And then Vardio against Leicester at home, so double Man City defence as well. The only slight worry I have with that is because I've also got Marmoush, that's 3 Man City players. So let's say that Pep tomorrow in the press conference says that Haaland's going to be out for a couple of games. All of a sudden, I'm not going to want to start with Haaland, but I probably will want a route back to him in 33. Now, potentially, I could find the money and sell Marmoush to Haaland. But what if I want to keep Marmoush and get Haaland for Isak or someone like that instead? At that point, I can't do it because I've also got Ederson and Vardio. So it feels a little bit complicated. I know that I probably want 3 Man City players by Game Week 33, 3 Arsenal players as well, but it's all about which ones to start with. So at the moment, I've got Ederson, Vardio, Saliba, Gabriel with Martinez on the bench. It could be Raya in goal and triple Arsenal defence. It could be Raya and I get rid of Saliba. I'm not quite sure yet. I need to give it a bit more thought. It was quite funny because I've spent the whole international break not thinking about FPL. I've never not thought about a wildcard as much as this one because I wanted to wait for the FA Cup results. We get those results and then a Haaland injury is just massive to overall strategy, and it has kind of complicated things a little bit. So that's why I'm not completely sure. On the bench, it's Livramento and Konza. Again, if there's only 4 teams going to double in 33, then I want to have a couple of Aston Villa players in there. That's why I've got Martinez and Konza. It's not the greatest double, but I want to try and get as many double game week players in as I possibly can. The other alternative would be to bench boost in 32 instead of 33. That opens up the option of going for like Pope and Henderson instead of Ederson and Martinez. So that is an option as well. And obviously Henderson's quite likely to double in 33 as well. So that will give me a double game week goalkeeper of 32 and 33 and allow me to bench boost. So I will think about that. But as it stands, my plan is to bench boost in 33. Just on Livramento, Dan Burn is definitely an option as well for 0.1 million less. He is on 8 yellow cards. He's only got to get through a few more games. I don't expect him to get suspended, but for 0.1 million more, I might as well just go for Livramento instead. If I had money to burn, no pun intended, I would probably just go for Trippier, but at 5.6 million, I'm struggling to fit him in with my team value. So I quite like the look of that defence, but I'll be honest, and if you've watched the videos for a few seasons, you'll already know this. I've had a bad time with Ederson in my FPL team plenty of times in the past, and I'm just not sure I'm prepared to go back there. But I also don't know if I want that triple Arsenal defence. So, yeah, I think it looks pretty good, and the plan is solid for 33, but it could go wrong if I want to get Saka or if I want to keep Marmoush but also get Haaland later on. So for midfielders, after selling him in game week 29, Salah is back in the squad for game week 30 at a cost of about 0.5 million team value. I know a lot of people thought that selling him in 29 was a mistake either way, which is fair enough, but I can't help but feel a little bit unlucky by the outcome. I sold Salah and kept Palmer because Palmer had a fixture. Palmer then goes and gets injured, so misses out anyway, and I'm down to 10 players. But also, part of the reason to sell Salah was to get Haaland, and now he's picked up an injury as well. And so because of that, if he's out for a while, everyone's just going to buy Marmoush and keep Salah, but also have more team value. And as someone that's trying to chase rank, like yesterday couldn't have gone worse. I wanted Bournemouth to win because that gave us extra double game week players to choose from in 33. Would have made the bench boost easier because you could have had like Kepa in goal instead of Martinez, so saving money as well. But also the Haaland injury has just made it a little bit more boring in terms of who to pick. It might be that Haaland is back soon, but either way, for this week, it looks very unlikely that he's going to play, in which case Salah has to go back in. I'm not going to be stubborn about it. As much as it's frustrating, he's the right choice in the current circumstances. So he's in. He's probably going to be captain this week as well. Eze and Sarr are both in for Crystal Palace against Southampton away. Because of the fixtures in 32 and 33, I do prefer having more attackers from Palace rather than defenders. So I just don't see many clean sheets after Southampton away and Brighton at home. That being said, given how attacking Munoz is, I'm not sure if I'm just overthinking this. Like, I'm sure a lot of you watching this would say if you're wildcarding, you have to have Munoz, and I completely get that. Like, he could do major damage over the next 2 weeks, and even if they don't get many clean sheets in 32 and 33, he's got those attacking returns in his locker. So potentially I could do Edison to Raya, Saliba to Munoz. That would free up a bit of money, and then just sell Eze or Sarr to someone else, like a non-double game week player. Potentially even someone like Rodgers could be an option, because Villa are going to double probably in 33 as well. The only problem with going for Rodgers in this current setup is I've got Gordon on the bench against Brentford at home, and he is suspended for that match. So he would be in for 31 against Leicester away, and then the double in 32, and then potentially sold in 33 for a different double game week player. But if I go for Rodgers, it's Brighton away. So I'm having to play him this week because Gordon is suspended. So it's always a knock-on. As soon as you change one player, you then have to change multiple other ones. So Edison to Reyes, Saliba to Munoz, let's say Eze to Rodgers, then Gordon has to go to someone different. I could just play Rodgers against Brighton away, but it doesn't feel great on wildcard to bring in a player for that kind of fixture that you can't bench. So that is why I don't have Munoz at the moment. And then Kluivert's in just because although Bournemouth are not going to double in 33, the fixtures are just good. He's a decent price. He's on penalties. There's not a huge amount of alternative options to look at. Like, I don't mind someone like Mbermo, for example. I haven't actually sold him in my actual FPL squad yet because I've got so much value tied up in him, and I don't want to sell him in case I want to bring him back. Although the fixtures aren't great, he does just have the minutes, the penalties, etc. So long term, you can just always play him. But he's a lot more expensive than Kluivert, so I just don't think I can fit him in. The other player that I would like to get in, but I just can't with the current setup and the expensive defenders, is Cole Palmer. He's back in training. My worry is that we won't get an update on him ahead of the deadline, so I don't know if I can risk it. But the reason I like Palmer is because of his price. He's a very easy swap to Saka later on, and that's on my mind as well. But I think with Salah there, let's say that I get to game week 33 and I really want to captain either Haaland or Saka. Salah's the make weight, right? You sell Salah to a cheaper midfielder, you bring in Haaland for one of your forwards, or you just do Salah to Saka. And I know Salah's got Leicester away in game week 33, so even without a double, he's an amazing option and could even be a great captain. But I know how I want to play this. I will want to captain a double game week player, and so I'm trying to keep my options open. But looking at the defence and midfielders, I would say that Sarr, Gabriel, Vardiol, Salah as well on current information, and probably Kluivert are pretty much locked in. Same with Livramento. So there's quite a few options I am sure about. But as always on wildcard, it's the fringe players that are the most difficult to choose from because you've got those knock-on domino effects, right? You change one player, you've got to change a few more. But anyway, let's talk about the forward line, which I'm sure you can already predict who's going to be in it. So up front, it's Isak against Brentford at home, Marmoush against Leicester at home, and Mateta against Southampton away. Isak is absolutely locked in this wildcard draft. There's no way I'm going to go without him if he's fit and available. Good fixture this week, Leicester away next week, and then double game week in 32, where he'll almost certainly be my captain. Longer term thoughts are to potentially sell him in 33. Because Newcastle have got Villa away, which is not a bad fixture, but it's not a double game week. And if I'm going to free hit in 34, I don't care that he's got Ipswich at home because I can just put him back in for that specific week. And in 35, it's Brighton away, followed by Chelsea at home and Arsenal away. So if I haven't got him for 35 to 37, it doesn't feel like the end of the world. So potentially I'll sell him in 33, either to Watkins, because Villa will double that week, or potentially if I don't go for double Man City defence and I want to make a move for Haaland while keeping Marmoush, then Isak could be sold for Haaland. But if I have to keep him, that's really not a problem against Villa away. Marmoush looks good as long as Haaland is out. To be fair, Marmoush had started like 6 of 7 games anyway. But if Haaland's out, I just don't see anyone else playing in that number 9 position. We've seen, obviously, Pep play players like Foden as false 9 before. But I just don't see that at the moment. Not when you've got Marmoush there and available. So if Haaland's out, Marmoush is almost certainly in. It's also an interesting discussion about who might get penalties as well. Like Haaland's missed quite a few anyway. But if he's out, someone else has got to take him. Could that be Marmoush? Potentially. I wouldn't guarantee it. But he's definitely going to be up there in terms of one of the top options you would imagine. So if Haaland's out, Marmoush is in. If Pep says tomorrow in the press conference that Haaland's absolutely fine, then maybe I go back to Haaland and get rid of Salah. But it feels a bit risky. It seems quite likely that Haaland's going to be a doubt for 30 and 31. And then Mateta, same reason I've got Eze and Sarr. Good fixtures, extra fixtures as well. Absolutely nailed on. Is Nketiah a bit of an issue? Maybe. Like he came on again in the FA Cup, scored as well. But from everything we've seen, Mateta's come back from injury. Straight away he started the next game in the FA Cup. Yes, he came off a bit earlier. But I think he's still clearly first choice. And he's on penalties when he's on the pitch as well. So I really like Mateta as an option. I'm not ruling out going for a different forward. But the only real reason to do it would be for team value concerns. So for example, instead of Marmoush, I could go for like Evan Nilsson. And that would free up a bit of money. And then potentially I can work my way up to get Cole Palmer in the team. But then I'm taking myself down from another Man City player. And they do double in 33. So I probably will want at least 2. And if Haaland's going to be out for a while, like Marmoush is just kind of a no-brainer. So I don't see me going for any other forward unless it's a cheap one. Potentially Ollie Watkins, because Villa have got Southampton to play before the double in 33. And then, of course, that double as well. But I think I'd rather just start with Isak and just switch to Watkins later on. So that's the draft as it stands. I'm almost certain that will not be the final draft because it's quite funny. I basically took the whole international break off. I don't think I've ever in 15 years of playing FPL activated my wildcard and then given it less thought. I've given more thought to wildcard 29 and not even played it than I have right now for wildcard 30, at least up until this point, like over the international break. And it was like, just wait for the FA Cup matches. And then the FA Cup matches get played. Then Haaland picks up an injury, which is a massive spanner in terms of drafts. And now it's almost like we need to wait until tomorrow to get a press conference update to then decide how much I want Marmoush. Do I need a plan to get Haaland back? And it just could change the entire draft. Like if Haaland's out for a long time, then Marmoush is just so obvious. And I don't need to worry about a route back to Haaland later on. But if it's a case of where he might be back for 33, then I've got to think about, okay, if he's back, will I want him? Probably. If so, how do I get him back? So we've waited this entire international break. I've given it some thought over the weekend during the FA Cup matches. And now it's like, wait for a bit more information. It's just one of those things. But that's how it stands right now. Let's take a quick look at what it will look like over the next few weeks. So this is on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub. If you want to check it out for your own team, there are links in the description below. There is a 7-day free trial at the moment and 30% off as well. So if you want to give it a go while you're on Wildcard, check out all the other tools as well. You can absolutely do that. So this is Game Week 30. I've just talked about that, so I'm not going to go through it again. In Game Week 31, the only real change in terms of lineup would be Livramento coming in for Vardiol, and Gordon would come in probably for Sarr or Kluivert. I'd probably just make that decision in Game Week 31. But overall, the idea would be just to roll transfers, because Game Week 33, I wouldn't be fully prepared for the doubles, and I'd want to leave it as late as possible to make my moves for the latest information. So there's going to be a lot of rolling, I think, after wildcard, which is usually what happens. And I'd probably put Martinez in instead of Ederson as well. But no transfers needed unless there's injuries. Game Week 32, Edison and Vardio against Palace at home. Oh, sorry, no. Game week 32, obviously, you've got the double for Newcastle and Crystal Palace. So Livramento would probably go in for Saliba. So it'd be Edison against Palace at home or Martinez against Southampton. Again, I'd have to make the decision closer to the time. Gabriel would play, so would Vardio. You've got Sarr, Eze, and Mateta double game week. Gordon, Isak, and Livramento. So I would probably bench Kluivert. The interesting thing about this setup, by the way, if I get to game week 32, and I think it's going to be difficult to bench boost in 33 because, I don't know, there's been injuries or suspensions or whatever's happened, I've had to use a bunch of my transfers. As it stands, the bench in 32 with no transfers needing to be used would be Martinez against Southampton away, Konza against Southampton away, Saliba against Brentford at home, and Kluivert against Fulham at home. That's not a bad single game week bench boost. And I've said many times before, as much as it's nice to have a full bench of double game week players, it's quite unlikely most people are going to be able to do that in 33 anyway. And also, I don't think I've ever had in my whole time playing FPL a full bench of double game week because it just never seems to fall that way. So I could pivot and go 32 instead. The nice thing about that is when I get to 33, I'm not so concerned about bringing in players that have got 2 fixtures. So bench boost 32 is something I really need to look at because as it stands, if you look at this team, if I just put Sarr in instead of Kluivert, and let's just put Konza in instead of Gordon just because he's got a double game week, I'm already set with, what is that, 1, 2, 3, let me get rid of that, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double game week. Sorry, I'm counting wrong. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double game weekers, plus Salah, who's not an issue to keep, and Isak. Isak to Watkins, and then you're kind of set. So I really need to give Bench Boost 32 some consideration. By the way, the reason they've got the funny lines under the players is because Ben Crellin's projections for double game weeks go into this tool. And you can see here he's predicting that Arsenal versus Palace and Man City versus Villa are very likely to go in. So it feels like, I wouldn't say a foolproof plan, but from looking at the draft and how it looks over the next few weeks, it can definitely work. The things I need to think about now is it worth just going in 32 for bench boost and not having to worry about getting extra double game weekers in? Also, if I can save transfers, if I get injuries to my double game week players, I can switch them to other ones and just have to put out 11. Also, bench boost 32 is closer to when I'm wildcarding, so less things to go wrong. The other thing to consider, which would be probably a little bit of a change in draft, would be free hit 33. So bench boost 32, free hit 33, and then roll forward from 34 onwards. The benefit of that is I wouldn't have to worry about the likes of Haaland, etc., because if he's fit for 33, I can just free hit him in. The thing with that is I still think I'd want to start with Marmoush anyway. And so I don't know if it really makes too much difference. Maybe I'd go for more Brighton players because they got Leicester at home in 32. But I don't know if it would change things massively. But that's the other consideration. So as it stands, the draft I just showed you in Game Week 30 is what I'm on. Free hitting 34, bench boosting 33, but I could pivot to 32. I'm going to give this some more thought today after I've recorded the other videos that I need to do. And in final thoughts tomorrow, I'll give you a bit of an update if there is one. And obviously, deadline stream, I'll lock it in for sure. I feel like it's going to be a hectic couple of days. But anyway, I'm going to leave that one there. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you again maybe later on today, if not tomorrow, for the next video.